Hi and welcome to this week's video. We had this specialised road bike come in. It has the FutureShock's headset and stem, and the customer was complaining that was noisy, and you'll hear that now. So you can hear that was quite noisy. He also said that he tried to true the wheel himself, and although he got tensions correct with the Park Tool tension meter, he wasn't happy with the trueness of the wheel, so we'll deal with that as well, along with the service. And you can see here that immediately I noticed the front derailleur, the yaw angle is slightly wrong. There was almost a hair's width between the edge of the derailleur and the pedal arm at one point, and a full 2 or 3 millimeters at the other end, so that wasn't quite right. So first of all, we're going to deal with the FutureShock. So initially I attached the Bluetooth sensor for the DI2 from the brake cable so that we could drop the handlebars down. And then we begin to take this off here. So this is the spacers for the headset. Now these come with three springs. You can see one come out there, the black spring. There's a blue and a yellow, and they determine the strength of the shock itself. You can actually run these without any of those three because it has its own internal spring as well. They actually give you your different ride qualities, I suppose you'd describe this as. Now when you take this out, you have a spring in the center, and then you have a fitting with a stack of roller bearings in, which you'll see now. So it was a case of cleaning all this up, re-lubricating it all, and trying to get it as smooth as possible with what we had. Parts for these are, well, they're hard to find. You tend to buy it as a unit. You'll see now when I finish cleaning the grease off of this that there is wear. You can see those marks on there. That's wear from the rollers that are beginning to wear that shaft. And unfortunately there's nothing we can do with that other than to re-lubricate it, which is what we've done with this one, short of replacing the entire system. And so we're now just cleaning up all the old grease, and we clean up all the rollers. You can see they sit in a plastic cup, I suppose you would describe that as, a fitting that they fit in. They all come out individually. It's quite time consuming, but we clean all the grease up off those. Fresh grease, it's like anything when it's lubricated fresh. You get rid of that old grease that might be beginning to thicken up, and you get a nice smooth grease on there, and it improves the ride quality of the component. So that's what we're doing here, giving everything a nice clean up. Quite a messy job, this one. And this is one of those components where you really can't over grease it. You know, a lot of stuff I tend to put nice thin layers of grease on, but this is something where you need plenty of grease, liberally lubricated. It will last longer between any servicing required. So we're just putting all those rollers back in their little fitting, and then we lubricate the tube with which they go into. Begin to get this back together. If you're fresh to the channel, please like and subscribe, and like the video, subscribe to the channel, leave a little comment for us. You won't see this anywhere else on the internet, on YouTube. We searched for a video on this just to see where we were at. Yeah, we couldn't find one, so this is the first time you'll be seeing one of these stripped down on the YouTube. So we get that back together again. That's now running much smoother, so we re-grease that black spring that he had in here, which is the medium spring. They do one for stiffer and one for freer, although it's not really the medium because technically, like I said, you can take any of them out. So we begin to get this back together now. We get the handlebars on, and then we do the preloader on the headset bearing, which is what I'm doing now, and the stem is all tightened up, but I don't torque these up until I know that I've got the handlebars square, and then once we're happy we then begin to torque up this fitting. It's specific to Specialized. I don't think any other manufacturer uses the FutureShock system. It does make it sometimes a little bit tricky for parts. That is what it is at the end of the day. So next up we're going to focus on this wheel that had, you can see, quite a lot of movement in it. When I actually did it with the Park Tool tension meter, the drive side, the side with the cassette, was almost perfect. He'd done a really good job there. But the non-drive side, the tensions were a little bit all over the place. You kind of have to do a wheel kind of 12 o'clock, 6 o'clock, opposite sides, and you kind of work a feel around a wheel to get that tension perfect. So you can see here our tension report, that was before, with a little blip on the non-drive side, and this is it as it's going out. Now the other thing you can have with brakes is too much movement. Just one thing on this caliper here, I always copper slip that little screw that holds the pads in, like the pivot point, because they are notorious for seizing. They all seize. So I always, whenever I get one in that's fresh, fairly new bike, I undo that, a little bit of copper slip. And that future-proofs, you can see me about to do it there, future-proofs that screw from sticking in the caliper. Really common issue on these. But also with that, you have a certain amount of movement in your brake levers, and you can actually trick the bike into thinking the pads are more worn by squeezing those levers a little bit without popping the pads out. You can see now the gap there is far less, which you'll see on the before and afters, where I've managed to give that brake feel a much stronger brake pull. Next up, we're just dealing with this front derailleur that is at the wrong angle, so I've undone the little screw which I'm doing up there, which gives it an angle against the bike frame. Brought that in nice and square, adjusted the high and low screws for their new positions, and now you can see we've got the same even gap between the pedal arm and the body of the derailleur. Quite an important one, that. Next up, B screw as well on this rear derailleur. There was too much gap there, we could bring that in a little bit. They were just the details that probably had never been quite done from new. One thing we always do whenever we receive a DI2 bike is check the firmware, and you can see here we have 4 updates available for this bike, so we updated the firmware as well. You can do it Bluetooth. This did have the Bluetooth on it, but from the bike shop point of view we need the password for that, or the passcode, and we didn't have that, and we don't even know if there was, whether it was on default or reset, so we do that via the computer. And just little details like this, the little cover over the seat post bracket, we just refitted that correctly, and now we're just running through the bike, torquing all the fittings, checking everything is at the right spec, right the way through the bike. Every single nut and bolt when we service a bike we check with a torque wrench. There's no cutting corners, everything has to be dead right. A lot of these torque settings are printed on bike components, a lot aren't, but you do just get a feel for it as you go and you begin to know. Bolt cages I always do by hand, never with a torque wrench, because they're plastic and you can shatter them, or carbon fibre, so I always do those by feel. You can see we're just working our way through all the fittings. This bike will go out absolutely perfect. I also adjusted the caliper positions on the discs at the same time, and then we just give the old tyres a little bit of air, and you can see these before and after shots, how the small service makes a massive difference to the way this bike will ride, and future-proof it for future servicing. Be sure to listen to this. You can see the brake lever there, how close that was before, how it got good space there now, and you'll certainly hear on the next shot the difference in the headset. So that's us for this week. Thanks for watching.